I, 42F, have worked at Market Tech Solutions for nearly 20 years, steadily building my career in marketing. This story is about how my family systematically exploited me for over a year, leading to a discovery that changed everything. Let me start from the beginning. I've always lived in the shadow of my sister Victoria, 44F, who was our parents' clear favorite. She married Michael, 45M, a successful accountant, 2 years ago, and they had their son Lucas last year. While my sister was always the star of the family, I focused on my career. I stayed late at work, took on extra projects, and built a solid reputation in the company. Last Tuesday, my boss, Mr. Thompson, called me into his office. I was nervous, thinking I had done something wrong, but instead, he offered me an incredible opportunity, heading up the marketing department at our new Seattle branch, with double my current salary and relocation expenses covered. I was ecstatic. This was the breakthrough I'd been waiting for, a chance to prove myself and step out of Victoria's shadow. That evening, I practically floated into my parents' house for our weekly family dinner. Victoria wasn't there yet, she and Michael lived across town. I couldn't hold back my excitement and shared the news over dinner. The moment I mentioned Seattle, my mother's face fell. "Kate, this isn't a good time for you to leave," she said, putting down her fork. She exchanged glances with my father before continuing, "Victoria has been struggling since Lucas was born. The doctor diagnosed her with severe postpartum depression." I looked at my sister, who had just arrived with Michael and Lucas. She suddenly seemed fragile, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. Mom reached over and squeezed Victoria's hand, explaining that she needed family support. Michael was working long hours, and they couldn't afford a full-time nanny. My father added that Victoria and Michael were planning to move in with them temporarily, just until she gets better. I felt my dream slipping away. But the promotion. I started, only to be cut off by my mother's firm voice, "There will be other promotions, Kate. Family comes first. Victoria needs you right now." Looking around the table, at my mother's determined face, my father's apologetic one, and Victoria's downcast eyes, I made a decision I would come to regret. "You're right," I said finally. "Family comes first. I'll tell Mr. Thompson I can't take the position." The relief on my mother's face was immediate. Victoria reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you." A week later, Victoria, Michael, and Lucas moved into our parents' house. I kept my current position but negotiated a small raise. It wasn't Seattle, but it was something. I started giving $2,800 of my monthly salary to help with Victoria's medical bills and baby expenses. My routine quickly changed. I'd work all day, come home for a quick dinner, then take over baby duty while my parents cooked and Victoria rested. I'd rock Lucas, change diapers, give him baths, and put him to bed. By the time I crawled into my own bed, I was exhausted. "This is temporary," I told myself. "Victoria will get better, and then life will return to normal. I'll get another chance at advancement. For now, family comes first." The weeks turned into months, and before I knew it, an entire year had passed. My life had fallen into a predictable routine: work, home, babysit, sleep, repeat. I was exhausted all the time, but I kept telling myself it was worth it for my family. Every morning, I'd rush out of the house while Victoria was still too tired to get up with Lucas. Every evening, I'd return to find her lying on the couch, claiming she'd had a terrible day. My parents hovered around her like she might break at any moment. "How are you feeling today, sweetie?" Mom would ask Victoria while I warmed up Lucas's bottle. "Still so foggy," Victoria would sigh dramatically. "The medication just makes me feel like a zombie." Lucas was a year old now and becoming more of a handful every day. I'd grown to love my little nephew fiercely, even as I resented how I'd become his primary caregiver while his mother recovered. But I started noticing things that didn't quite add up. Like the time I came home early from work to find Victoria's purse full of shopping bags from luxury boutiques. Or how she always seemed to have new clothes and perfect hair and nails, despite claiming she couldn't manage to shower some days. "Didn't you say Victoria couldn't leave the house yesterday because of her anxiety?" I asked Mom one evening after finding a receipt for lunch at an expensive restaurant in the kitchen trash. Mom waved her hand dismissively. The doctor says getting out occasionally is good for her. It's all part of the treatment plan. I nodded, but something didn't feel right. I'd seen Victoria with her friends through the window of an upscale cafe near my office once. She'd been laughing, animated, nothing like the dejected woman who could barely make it off the couch when I was around. I have more to share about what happened next, and believe me, it gets worse. But I need to gather my thoughts before continuing. Am I wrong for questioning my sister's condition? Should I just keep supporting my family without asking questions? Then came the day that really made me start questioning everything. I'd spent 20 years building my career at Market Tech Solutions, starting as a junior marketing associate right out of college. I'd worked through countless late nights, sacrificed weekends, and postponed my personal life to climb the corporate ladder. Through economic downturns and company restructures, I'd proven my worth time and again. My colleagues respected me, and younger team members often came to me for mentoring. That history with the company made what I discovered even more painful. One morning, while preparing for a client presentation, I overheard two senior managers discussing the Seattle branch. The position I'd turned down had gone to James, a colleague with half my experience. Under his leadership, the branch was thriving, and he just received another promotion. That could have been me. The resentment I'd been suppressing started to surface. I began keeping a detailed diary of Victoria's behavior patterns. On days when I had early meetings, she was too exhausted to function. But when I worked late, neighbors would mention seeing her shopping at the mall or having lunch with friends. Our parents enabled everything. Dad would give her his credit card for essential baby items, which somehow always included designer clothes for herself. Mom would defend her every action, saying, "You don't understand how depression works, Kate. Some days are better than others." The financial strain was becoming unbearable. Beyond the monthly $2,800 I was providing, there were constant emergency expenses. Victoria's therapy sessions, which I later discovered were actually spa treatments, special supplements, which went into her designer handbag fund, and medical equipment, including a $900 massage chair that only she used. I depleted my savings and put my retirement planning on hold. My own apartment needed repairs I couldn't afford because every spare dollar went to supporting my sister's lifestyle. When I tried to reduce my monthly contribution, Mom guilt-tripped me by saying, "Your sister's health is more important than your kitchen renovation, isn't it?" The physical and emotional toll was even worse. I was working 50-hour weeks, then coming home to what was essentially a second full-time job caring for Lucas. I loved my nephew, but I was burning out. My hair was graying, I'd gained weight from stress eating, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a full night's sleep. Meanwhile, Victoria seemed to be getting her self-care in plenty. Her Instagram, which she thought I didn't know about, showed regular salon visits, lunches with friends, and shopping sprees. All while I was using my lunch breaks to order supplies for Lucas or schedule his doctor appointments. The inequality of our situations became increasingly clear. Victoria had a supportive husband, our parents' unwavering attention, and a comfortable lifestyle funded by my sacrifice. I had exhaustion, depleted savings, and a stalled career. The breaking point was approaching, but what really opened my eyes was a conversation I overheard between Victoria and her friend Melissa at a cafe near my office. I had stopped for coffee during my lunch break, and they didn't notice me at a nearby table, partially hidden by a large plant. Victoria was laughing, not the weak, medicated laugh she used at home, but her real, full-bodied laugh I remembered from before. "I can't believe how well this is working," she said to Melissa. "Kate's so gullible. She actually thinks I can't get out of bed some days." I felt my blood run cold as they continued talking. Victoria detailed how she'd researched postpartum depression symptoms online to make her act convincing. She bragged about how she'd manipulated our parents into supporting her plan. "It's perfect," she said. "I get to stay home, shop, and lunch with friends, while Kate plays nanny and ATM." Melissa asked if she felt guilty. Victoria's response made me sick. "Why should I? Kate's always been jealous of me anyway. Besides, she's single with no life. What else would she be doing with her time and money?" I sat there, trembling with rage and hurt, as they finished their lunch and left. 20 years of putting my family first, of believing in family comes first, had led to this moment. My own sister saw me not as family, but as a resource to be exploited. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, remembering all the times Victoria had manipulated situations in her favor since childhood. How she'd always gotten the new clothes while I got hand-me-downs. How she'd taken credit for my achievements and diminished my successes. How our parents had always supported her dreams while treating mine as secondary. The next morning, I started gathering evidence. I photographed receipts, documented Victoria's activities, and kept detailed records of every dollar I'd contributed. I knew confrontation was coming, but I needed to be prepared. I've discovered even more since then, and what I'm planning to do about it will change our family forever. But I need to be strategic about this. I've already lost too much by being the good sister who always sacrifices for family. For those wondering why I let this go on for so long, it's complicated. When you're raised to believe family comes first, when you're conditioned to put others' needs before your own, it's hard to break free from that mindset. But I'm done being the family doormat. I'll post an update soon about what I discovered and what happened when I finally confronted them. Just writing this has helped me see how much I've been manipulated. I'm angry, but more than that, I'm determined to take back control of my life. Am I wrong for planning to expose my sister's deception, even if it tears our family apart? Should I just keep quiet and maintain the peace? I've always been told that family comes first, but at what point do you put yourself first? Update 1. After a year of being my sister's unpaid nanny and unwilling financier, I desperately needed a break. I hadn't taken a single day off since Victoria claimed her postpartum depression diagnosis. Between my full-time job and caring for Lucas every evening, I was completely burnt out. So last month, I decided to do something for myself. I found a perfect week-long getaway in Monterey, a charming boutique hotel overlooking the bay, exactly what I needed to recharge. It had been years since my last real vacation, and I'd specifically chosen Monterey for its peaceful atmosphere and beautiful coastal walks. Despite giving Victoria $2,800 monthly, I had managed to save enough for this much-needed escape. I mentioned my trip frequently over the next few weeks, partly from excitement and partly to ensure everyone remembered I'd be gone. I even put it on the family calendar in the kitchen and arranged time off work. The day before my departure, I came home from work to find Victoria and Michael surrounded by suitcases in the living room. "What's going on?" I asked, though I already had a sinking feeling. Michael looked apologetic. "Victoria's doctor thinks she needs specialized treatment. There's a facility in Scottsdale that offers an intensive program for treatment-resistant postpartum depression." "Scottsdale? When are you going?" "Tomorrow morning," Victoria said softly. "For a week." "A week? But that's—" "We know it overlaps with your vacation," Mom interrupted, coming in from the kitchen. "It's unfortunate timing, but Dr. Harrison says Victoria can't wait any longer for this treatment." "So who's going to watch Lucas?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "We were hoping you could postpone your trip," Dad said. "Just for a few weeks." I stood there, stunned by their audacity. "My flight is tomorrow. I'll lose the deposit on the hotel and the airline tickets." Victoria's eyes welled up with tears. "I'm so sorry, Kate. I didn't plan for this to happen, but Dr. Harrison says this program at Canyon Suites could be what finally helps me get better." Later that night, after making the calls to cancel everything and losing nearly $650 in non-refundable deposits, I sat on my bed and felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time: pure, unadulterated rage. The next morning, Victoria and Michael left for their treatment program. After putting Lucas down for his nap, I decided to do some investigating. In Victoria's room, I found no prescription bottles, no doctor's notes, nothing to indicate any ongoing treatment. But her laptop was open on the desk, still logged into her social media accounts. What I discovered made my blood run cold. In her Facebook messages with her friend Melissa, Victoria had been bragging about her scheme. Does Kate suspect anything? No way, she's such a fool. Just hands over the cash and babysits for free. What about her Monterey trip? Already handled. Convinced Mom to tell her about an emergency treatment program. She'll cancel everything, you know how she is about family comes first. The Canyon Suites looks amazing. Are you really staying in the premium spa suite? Yes. Using Kate's money for the upgrade. The irony, she's canceling her modest hotel while funding my luxury spa week. I documented everything, screenshots, bank statements, social media posts showing Victoria shopping and lunching on days she claimed to be too depressed to get out of bed. Then I remembered my old friend Amy from high school. She had gone through a similar situation with her own family years ago and had mentioned her lawyer. I called Amy that evening. "Send me everything you found," she said after hearing my story. "I'll connect you with Patricia, she's the lawyer who helped me stand up to my family. She specializes in cases like this." The lawyer confirmed what I suspected: this was fraud, plain and simple. She helped me prepare a formal demand letter and advised me on gathering additional evidence. Amy offered me her spare room while I figured out my next steps. I waited until the day before Victoria and Michael were due to return from their treatment program at the luxury resort. That evening, I packed my bags and confronted my parents. "I know about the fraud," I said, placing my evidence folder on the coffee table. "Victoria's been faking her depression, and you've both been helping her exploit me." Mom tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. "I have proof. All of it. The spa treatments disguised as therapy sessions. The shopping sprees hidden as medical expenses. Everything." Dad turned pale as I showed them Victoria's messages. Mom went on the offensive. "How dare you spy on your sister? She's sick." "Really?" I pulled up the Canyon Suites website on my phone, showing them Victoria's public Instagram posts by the pool. "This doesn't look like intensive therapy to me." What followed was chaos. Mom tried to justify everything as helping a struggling mother. Dad stammered about family supporting family. I cut through their excuses with cold facts. "You've stolen $42,000 from me through fraud. You've exploited my time and labor under false pretenses. You've deliberately sabotaged my career opportunities." I laid out my demands: full restitution of the money and their complete withdrawal from my life, or I'd take legal action. "I'll expose everything, to our extended family, to your church congregation, to Michael's accounting firm." "You wouldn't dare," Mom hissed. "Think about what this will do to Lucas." "Don't you dare use Lucas to manipulate me," I snapped. "If you cared about him, you wouldn't have let his mother abandon him while she went on spa vacations." I walked out despite their protests, Amy waiting in her car outside. 3 days later, I broke my own no-contact rule to send one email, to Michael, with all the evidence attached. He deserved to know how his wife had been spending their money and lying about her treatment. The next morning, I received the bank transfer, $42,000 from Victoria and Michael's joint account. No message attached. An hour later, Michael called me from a new number. He was livid, not at me, but at Victoria. Apparently, there were other lies she'd been telling him, and my evidence was the final straw. I'm now staying with Amy while I look for my own place. I've blocked my parents and Victoria on everything. The relief I feel is indescribable, like I've been carrying a boulder and finally put it down. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with Mr. Thompson about transferring to our Portland office. It's time for a fresh start, far from the family that saw me as nothing more than a resource to exploit. I'll post another update once I'm settled in my new place and new job. Sometimes burning bridges is the only way to stop people from crossing them to take advantage of you. Update 2. First, let me share what happened to my manipulative family after I exposed their fraud. It's been quite a satisfying chain of events. The downfall started when Victoria's carefully crafted lies unraveled. After receiving my evidence, Michael didn't just file for divorce, he conducted a full audit of their finances. He discovered Victoria had secret credit cards with over $50,000 in debt, mostly from luxury purchases she'd made while claiming to be too depressed to leave the house. She'd been forging his signatures on credit applications and hiding statements for years. Michael, being an accountant, was methodical. He documented everything and filed for divorce citing fraud. He also reported Victoria's financial misconduct to relevant authorities, as some of her actions crossed into criminal territory. She's now facing potential legal consequences beyond just our family situation. The firm cut all ties with her and informed their clients about the fraud. Victoria's social standing in our community collapsed overnight. Her country club membership was revoked. Her lunch friends stopped returning her calls. Even Melissa, her confidant in the scheme, publicly distanced herself when the truth came out. As for my parents, their carefully constructed image as pillars of the community crumbled spectacularly. Someone, I suspect Michael, sent copies of my evidence to their church leadership board. Dad was immediately removed from his position as church treasurer. Turns out, people don't trust someone who helped orchestrate financial fraud against their own daughter. Mom was stripped of her roles in church committees and charity organizations. The fallout spread through their social circle like wildfire. Their friends at the golf club, their bridge group, their dinner party circle, all those carefully cultivated relationships withered when people learned how they'd helped exploit their own daughter. Several longtime friends publicly called them out for their behavior. Their reputation in the neighborhood tanked too. Neighbors who'd witnessed me coming over daily to care for Lucas while Victoria went shopping started speaking up about what they'd observed. Stories began circulating about how they'd seen Victoria at spas and restaurants on days she was supposedly too ill to care for her son. The financial impact hit them hard. Dad's business partners, concerned about his ethical judgment, bought out his share of the company at a significantly reduced value. Mom's interior design clients, mostly referred through church connections, quietly found other decorators. Their retirement plans, which had partially relied on their social connections, needed serious adjustment. Victoria tried to spin a new narrative about how I'd misunderstood everything, but her social media posts from Canyon Suites were particularly damning. Pictures of her getting luxury spa treatments during her supposed intensive therapy made her look ridiculous. She's now working her first real job in years, as a retail sales associate at a mall clothing store. Her manager, who knows about her history, keeps her on a strict schedule with no special accommodations. She had to move out of her luxury home with Michael and now lives in a small one-bedroom apartment. No more shopping sprees, no more spa days, no more ladies' lunches. She actually has to work for a living, just like the rest of us. Last I heard, she was trying to start a GoFundMe for her legal expenses, but it was shut down when people reported it as fraudulent. But enough about their downfall. Let me tell you about my triumph, because life has never been better. I moved to Portland and absolutely love it. Instead of the lateral transfer I'd expected, they offered me a director position, with a salary triple my previous one. Apparently, my reputation for handling difficult projects had preceded me. I'm now leading a team of 15 people, and our department's performance has increased by 40% since I took over. My new condo has a stunning view of the Willamette River. I decorated it exactly how I want, modern, elegant, and completely different from my old life. The master bathroom has a spa-worthy soaking tub that I use regularly. It's my first time living somewhere that's truly mine, and it feels amazing. My finances have completely turned around. Without Victoria draining my accounts, I've been able to max out my retirement contributions, start a substantial investment portfolio, and still have money for luxury purchases. I just bought myself a beautiful new BMW, something I'd never have dreamed of before. I've made wonderful new friends who value me for who I am, not what I can do for them. We go hiking in the Columbia River Gorge, try new restaurants, and enjoy wine tasting in the Willamette Valley. I've taken up pottery classes and even sold some pieces at local art fairs. My life is full of genuine connections and personal growth. The best part? I'm planning a month-long luxury trip through Italy next spring. I'll be staying at 5-star hotels, taking private tours, and enjoying everything I denied myself while supporting my family. The total cost is about what I used to give Victoria in 4 months, but this time, it's an investment in my happiness. Amy visits regularly and says she hardly recognizes me anymore, in a good way. I stand straighter, laugh louder, and no longer flinch when people ask for favors. I've learned to say no without guilt and yes, only when I truly want to. My therapist helped me understand that what my family did wasn't just manipulation, it was systematic emotional and financial abuse. Breaking free wasn't selfish, it was necessary for my survival and growth. Now I'm thriving in ways I never thought possible. Last week, Victoria sent me a lengthy email begging for reconciliation. She claimed she's changed and learned her lesson. She mentioned that working retail has taught her humility and that she misses her comfortable life. I laughed and deleted it. My parents still try to reach me through relatives, insisting that family should stick together. The irony of that phrase now makes me smile. Michael keeps me updated about Lucas occasionally. He's doing well with shared custody arrangements, and that's all I need to know. Sometimes I miss my nephew, but I realize now that the best thing I can do for him is model how to break free from toxic family dynamics and live authentically. My story is no longer about them, it's about me and the amazing life I've built. I'm a successful businesswoman, a trusted friend, an artist, and most importantly, someone who knows her own worth. I no longer accept scraps of affection in exchange for financial support and free childcare. I'm writing this from my ocean view suite at a luxury resort in Sicily, my first stop on a 2-week Mediterranean vacation. The irony isn't lost on me that while Victoria is folding clothes at the mall, I'm sipping Prosecco on a private balcony overlooking the sea. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. This will be my final update. To anyone trapped in a similar situation, you don't owe your abusers anything. The phrase, family comes first, should never mean setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. Sometimes the happiest ending comes from writing your own story, even if that means leaving toxic characters behind. Life is beautiful on the other side of exploitation. I'm free, successful, and happier than I've ever been. And the best part? I did it all myself, without lying, cheating, or manipulating anyone. That's the difference between them and me, and it makes my success so much sweeter.